Guys, welcome back to another episode of the One Step at a Time podcast. Your host, the Ocean Flight 111, heading straight to full potential with zero delays. Now, guys, I am a bit nervous. I'm just going to throw it out there, but we're going to roll with the punches. I was telling my guest here that's my first in-person podcast, so it's definitely a new challenge, but a challenge we're very grateful for. Rightio, my guest today is an author, performance psychologist, and originally hails from Glenamaddy, County Galway, where he grew up with 7 siblings and his 2 parents. Facing early adversity in his childhood, this person used it as fuel to help impact the people, thousands of people he would meet via his books, speeches, many avenues of different work, and his soul space business, which he runs with his wife Miriam. If you don't catch him on an early morning run by the docks, you might catch him helping a Heineken Cup winning rugby team or Olympic champions. Above all, he is a loving father to his children and a loving husband to his wife Miriam. In his words, he enables and empowers people to make better decisions. And if you're around him, you'll probably catch a smile. Guys, I want to welcome everybody. Gerry Hussey, the podcast. How are you?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me on.
Man, such a pleasure. Gerry, I originally came across your work, I want to say about a year ago. And then my good pal Liam, who you work with, he had up on a story that you were having an activation out in Dunleary. And I didn't really know what the crack was at all, right? But I had a bit of a funny week, and I was like, I need something. I need some kind of challenge or something to wake me up here. So I got up. I was in Lucan. I got up early, got the bus out, and then I got the dairy out. Did the activation, and I remember about the activation. The biggest thing was there was like 20-year-olds, there was 60-year-olds, there was all walks of life there, and it was just great. We were screaming, we were exercising, we were releasing energy out in the world. It was fantastic. And then I had the honour then of meeting you a second time on a bit of a more rainy October morning, where the second time I meet you. But I just want to get in a little bit about your work and whatnot. For those of you who don't know, Gerry's a psychologist. He's worked and sports performance psychologist. He's worked with, as I said, Heineken winning rugby teams, from Tipperary to boxers and whatnot. The list goes on and on. But I kind of want to get into, sometimes when I do this podcast, I like to go into people's life stories. But I feel like to get the most out of this, I just want to hit like key points from your books and just work you've done. So kind of want to start it is emotions. And I want to kind of just jump right straight in the deep end. You're someone who's learned to conversate and express their emotions and be dialed into your emotions and heal and learn how to really express yourself. I was reading in one of the books that a lot of people can just, the way we affect from shadowing. So I want to get into kind of like the shadow of what emotions can do. And you were given an example of you're working with a boxing team and an Olympic boxing international team. And one of the boxers, what happens is you would have these boot camps. And at the end of the day, you would have like a meeting and whatnot. One of the boxers will come in and he hated doing the boot camps and he just let loose. And that was his way of expressing his emotion, just let it all out and not care. Now, he walked away from the meeting all happy as dandy, releasing, but that would have an impact then on the people. How do we learn to express our emotions when a lot of people don't even sit in emotions?
Yeah, well, I think the starting point to all my work is understanding what is the human being.
Yeah.
I think that's really the point, because we're all human beings. We have a human existence. We're trying to regulate emotions. We're trying to deal with setback. We deal with challenges of life and death. And I think we have to look at the big picture. So if I'm to manage myself, whether that's my emotion, my mindset, my brain, my gut, I need to understand what it is. I think most of us are exceptional at understanding. If I asked the listeners of this podcast to name the highest mountain in the world, they'd probably know. What house does the American president live in? We probably know. What number of the house does the British Prime Minister live in? We probably know. Name 4 planets other than Earth? We probably know. So most people grew up in where our education system teaches us a lot about the world outside. But if I was to ask people on this podcast to tell me what your microbiome is, or to tell me what the gut-brain axis is, or the mind-body connection, or do you know that the human brain can't experience emotion? Do you know that the brain and the mind are not the same thing? Do you know that 5 times more information comes to your gut than your brain, than comes from your brain to your gut? So a lot of mental illnesses are gut disturbance. Do we know at what frequency every cell in your body oscillates and vibrates at? Do you know what BDNF is and its role in brain generation? Do you know what neurogenesis is? Most people stop in tracks says, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And that's the danger. That's the danger, is that we don't really know who we are as human beings. So what we have to look at is, as human beings, we're a dynamic mix. So we're not even a mind-body connection. Forget that, because even the word connection implies two separate entities connected. We're one being. And everything that we think about shows up in our body. The food we eat shows up in our thoughts. And every single emotion creates a physical change. The word emotion comes from French, meaning physical disturbance. So the mind, the body, the emotions, the hormonal system, the endocrine system, everything is connected. And when we're in a state of balance in our mind, in our soul, our body's in a state of balance. If we have a mind that's racing, if we have emotions that are suppressed, if we're holding old trauma, it shows up in our body. So we have to start with this idea that everything is connected. And therefore, when you look at emotions, every emotion plays a valuable role. There's no such thing as a negative emotion. We talk about positive and negative emotions. Total nonsense. Every single emotion is valuable. Shame, anger, guilt, they're all emotions. We have them for a reason. And the reason we have them is to show you that something needs to be addressed. The only negative emotion is a suppressed or denied emotion.
Indicators almost.
Exactly. So every emotion is like an alarm going off, a fire alarm. It wants to bring your attention to something needs to be addressed. But imagine if this building went on fire and the fire brigade turned up and all they did was turn off the fire alarms and left, but they didn't address the fire. So when we suppress or deny emotions, we're not listening to what it's meant to happen. When we suppress or deny anything, it doesn't go away. It just builds and builds and builds. So whether it's chronic stress, whether it's chronic inflammation of the body, whether it's the suppression of chronic trauma, all of this stuff will eventually come up in some shape of something bigger. So life is not always straightforward. On every given day, we have ups and downs. We get angry, we get sad. And we have to regulate those emotions. We have to regulate those thoughts. We have to move the body. We have to release. Emotion is energy in motion. So we have to release motion. And as a psychologist, you're kind of trained to sit down and talk to people about their trauma. Now, talk therapy is massively valuable.
It has
been massively valuable in my own life. So I'm an advocate of it, but talk therapy alone can't move an emotion because trauma is held in the body, not the brain. The brain doesn't know anything about trauma. So to move trauma, we've got to move it through the body. So that's why when I bring clients, we get them to exercise, to move, to chant. And people think, we're mad. But when you know the science, you have to release it. So now we know that one of the greatest things we can do for our mental health is regularly move our body, to exercise, not just because it produces endorphins and all those good, feel-good hope molecules that the muscles secrete. We also know that movement has a massive impact. When we move in a certain way, it's releasing trauma. It's releasing emotions. It's resetting the nervous system. And when we add something like breathing or chanting into that, we're regulating the vagus nerve. What's the vagus nerve? It's the longest of all the cranial nerves. It connects the brain to every organ in the body, and it connects every organ in the body to the brain. And the vagal tone is so important to how we feel, how we think. And by chanting, by breathing, by cold water immersion, when we had the cold water where the vagus nerve is on the back, we regulate the vagal tone. So now to treat somebody, we got to treat them holistically. We got to get the body, we got to get the gut, we got to get the vagus nerve. And a lot of that involves how we think, how we eat, how we move, how we sleep. And what I've tried to do is bring an entire package. So you don't just treat the depression. You don't just treat the illness. You treat the entire person. And if you can get someone's nervous system, if you can get someone's whole sense of self back into balance, and you give them a sense of confidence, and you make them feel joyful and loved and important, something amazing happens. So it's a long-winded answer, but
It's a great answer.
everything I do looks at the full, multidimensional human being. You can't treat one element of the human being in isolation to the other because you're going to miss something.
100%, man, 100%. A lot of things there. I was just making sure I was noting them. A few things there I want to mention. You have a quote where I think it's the body, what the mind suppresses, the body expresses.
Mhm.
So like that built up stresses and whatnot. Also, I just wanted to point, you're saying about the vagal. Was it the boxing, the chanting, the hu that has an effect on that too? Boxing, for those of you who don't know, boxing has played such a pivotal role in like your journey. And I heard you say how boxing kind of opened up everything. It kind of opened up a place where you loved, a place there of acceptance. For people who don't have that, or how do you even recognize that you might be suppressing? People who don't have an avenue yet, how do you even notice about yourself? For someone that isn't yet in touch or in their kind of feelings in their body at one with themselves, how do you even notice that you might be suppressing something?
Okay, so, if anybody's new to this idea that emotion cause physical changes in the body, let me ask a question. When we get sad, what happens to us? We sad. What do we produce? What do our eyes produce?
Tears.
Tears. So tears are a physical manifestation of an emotion. When we get embarrassed, what happens to our cheeks?
Call it.
They go red. So the redness is a physical change of an emotion. When we get nervous, what do our kidneys do?
I don't know what the kidneys doing.
They release.
Oh,
They
okay.
release. We need to go to the bathroom.
All right.
In simple terms, when we know that, but every single emotion has an impact. So one time ago, if we had any type of inflammation in the body, be it a rash or, we would think it was something to do with the body. So we'd look for the answer in the body. But we know now that sometimes the physical manifestation can be partly or entirely emotional. So we know that emotions cause physical changes in the body. We have normalized a society where people feel tired all the time. People need coffee to get themselves going. We're addicted to phones. We're struggling to sleep. We're eating processed food. We have normalized obesity. We have normalized fatigue. We've normalized headaches and heartburn. And there's a pill for all of this stuff. Don't worry, just take the pill and move. But why we get them in the first place? And if you look at the rise in chronic stress and the rise in a lot of these chronic illnesses, there's no doubt about it. Chronic stress and processed food are linked behind all of this. So now you begin to realize, well, hold on a second here. If you're living a life where you wake up in the morning, you feel energized, you feel happy, you feel confident. If your body doesn't feel bloated, if you're not overweight, if you feel strong and you have good flexibility, then chances are you're not suppressing any emotion. Chances are you're healthy. But if you're waking up in the morning and you're feeling groggy, if you need coffee to get yourself going, if you suffer from regular headaches or heartburns, then something is out of whack. That is not the normal state of existence. So just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal. So we have normalized abnormality. So the first thing I'd say to people is, think about how you wake up. Think about how you feel throughout the day. What are your energy levels like? When you do you feel strong? Do you feel fit? What's your VO2 max like? It's like when you sit alone by yourself, do you need a distraction?
That's the thing though, Gerry. How many people, this including myself, are able to sit. I seen a quote of just stare at a wall for 30 minutes. That's a waste of time. Why would I do that? Well, just to be alone by yourself. You spend 30 minutes looking at your phone. Why wouldn't you spend 30 minutes? But it's such a struggle, it's such a hard thing to do for so many people.
And that's probably because you have a suppressed emotion. It's when we're alone by ourselves, what we're trying to do is when we're alone by ourselves, we're either consuming Instagram, we're consuming telephone, we're eating, we're consuming TV, because we're trying to suppress an emotion. We're trying to deny something. So when we're alone, what's the emotion that comes up? What's the story we feel? So we can say, oh, well, we're always distracted because of our phones. But no one comes into my house and puts my phone in my hand. If I don't pick it up, the phone can't distract me. So on one side, we have all these distraction devices. We have to address that. But also we have an internal need to be distracted. Because if you put your phone down, it doesn't jump into your hand. You know, Instagram doesn't come into your house and make you pick up your phone. If you turn your phone off, and every phone, I just remind everyone, every phone has an off button.
You'd forget that.
So turn it off.
Yeah.
So it's not the phone's fault. It's not Instagram's fault. Now, social media is deliberately set up to get you psychologically addicted. So we have to address that. So what I need to do is, I can't control Instagram, but I need to figure out what in me finds it so hard to be alone with myself. And I think if we sit into that question for a while, most of us are living lives where we're not really fulfilled. We're not really expressing ourselves. We're not really chasing our dreams. So either we're empty inside, so we're trying to fill that with crap and noise, or we have a fear, we have an emotion that we're trying to suppress down. I think the greatest gift we can give ourselves is to sit in stillness regularly and ask what's coming up. Because if you're not asking what's coming up, then you're suppressing and denying it. And that's going to have a massive impact. So a life well lived is a life lived, a life where you say, this is my life. I get to live it on my terms. I'm following what I'm passionate about. I'm pursuing my dreams, and I decide how I feel on any given moment. Not him, not her, not my boss, not the weather. I feel. That's the power we all have. We have, Viktor Frankl says, the greatest dignity a human being possesses is the ability to choose our response. So all of this can happen out there, but I'm not my past. I'm not my boss. I'm not my environment. How I feel is down to the stuff I do each and every day. How I regulate my nervous system, how I change my brain chemistry, how I nourish my gut health, how I build my physical strength. And if I can build a being, physically, emotionally, chemically, biologically, that's strong, that's calm, that's resilient, that's full of fun and joy and love, then chances are I'll navigate the outside world easily. But if I'm coming from an inner world that's depleted, full of processed food, full of caffeine, tired, not sleeping well,
Victim mentality.
then no matter what challenge I meet, it's going to be too much for me. So one is to try change the outer environment, which is very hard to do. So what I do every morning is, how do I regulate myself? How do I get myself into the best possible state that I can be today? Just today. Because every single day is a day. Just do your best today.
Big facts. That's going to make some great short form content, man. Yeah, man, you hit so many points there. Couple of things I want to, fight or flight. You speak a lot about the fight or flight, and also you also speak about how, you know, but there, a response. You had a really good metaphor about, say if there was like, well, we just had a storm there. Hope the west was all good. But you spoke about the double glazed windows. If it's a single glazed window, then it might crack. Because like life, you were speaking about in your book, life doesn't get easier. The challenges will keep facing them. And you had a good metaphor of, do you have a single glaze window or double glaze? And by meaning doing the hard work to be able to deal with these challenges. How does one escape the victim mentality of being mad at the world? So say, give an example now. Someone had a bad childhood. They're in a job that they don't like. They're waking up, getting public transport every day, and they're like, I was on the way this morning, Gerry. I was on the way to do this podcast on abundance. I was like, I'm doing a podcast. I have meetings later on. I am loving life. 7-8 years ago, I was depressed on the Dublin bus. There was quite a big jump. So someone that feels like life is out to get them, you have a good thing where you say about life is not against me, but for me. How does one escape that mentality when it's been their mentality for so long, maybe, of the world is out to get me?
Yeah, firstly, I hate fake positivity.
Yeah.
And I hate somebody trying to deny you your right to be angry and bitter. So like, I work with Olympic athletes, I work with world champions. That's the easy part of my job. I also work with people that have lost young children. I work with people who've been told that they haven't long to live. And like, What are you going to say to that person?
Exactly.
Oh, you just meditate and you'll be okay. So that's an insult to that person. So people have experienced stuff in life and they've every right to be angry and they've every right to be bitter. And sometimes if I'm working with a parent or working with someone and they're trying to be strong and I say, but you must be angry. So no emotion should be suppressed. No emotion should be denied. If you wake up this morning and you just feel down, you feel sad, you feel miserable, that's okay. That's okay. Now, the only question you have to ask is, so firstly, you have every right to feel how you feel, particularly people who have had things happen in their life that you wouldn't wish on anyone. So you've every right to experience that. Then the only question I ask is, what happens to you and your life if you continue to hold that emotion?
Yeah.
So I'm not telling them they need to change. I'm not telling anybody you have to be positive. I don't tell anybody, but I ask them, what's the impact this will have on you in your life? And then secondly, if you were to change it, what might that look like? So Viktor Frankl always said, it's not what happens to us that matters, but how we choose to respond. But Frankl was very clear that every human being has to firstly deal with the emotion. Don't deny it, don't suppress it. Don't just pretend everything's perfect. So meet every emotion with compassion. Meet yourself with ease. Meet yourself with understanding. And ask, how do I regulate this emotion? So is there a trauma I need to deal with? Is there an anger I need to express? I bring people into boxing gyms and we punch and we scream. I bring them to the mountains and we scream. What do I need to get out of me? So accept your starting point, but then ask yourself, what's the cost of holding on to this? And I think for most people, you have a right and a freedom. You have a right to feel that emotion, but you also possess the freedom to move beyond it and to leave that behind. Because most people want a life of love and joy and ease. And it's choosing that. So it comes down to choice. And the choice then is every single morning. How do I begin to dissolve, dissipate the negative or unhelpful emotion? Because there's no negative emotions. How do I dissipate the unhelpful emotion? And how do I generate more positive emotions? So for me, boxing is a beautiful analogy. Because you put on the boxing ring, you might just get knocked out. You have no way of controlling your opponent. But what it awakens in you is, wow, this is me. And I never was a great boxer, but I loved it because you put those gloves on. Now it's down to me. It's me against me, not my opponent. The greatest opponent is not the guy across the ring because I can't control him, but it's me. So can I overcome my doubt? Can I overcome my fear? And when we move in boxing, as we box, we're moving that. We're twisting in incredible ways. It's almost like a yoga. It's like Tai Chi. So we're using the breath. We're letting emotions out. And then in boxing, you have to learn, even in a hostile environment, to be really calm. So boxers can't be panicking.
Even when you get hit.
Yes, even though you're in an aggressive sport, you can't be aggressive. So but when boxers are in full flight, either on a punch bag or they're actually very calm. It's an amazing realization that you can be physically, flat out, but there's something joyful about that. But it can be boxing, it can be yoga, but we got to regulate the body every day. We got to move the body every day. We got to move the vagal tone every day. We got to get those emotions out. And then we start to generate stuff like gratitude, joy, love. How do we do that? Firstly, when we move the muscles, it produces things called hope molecules. So even by exercising, it's releasing hope molecules. When we exercise, it releases endorphins. What are endorphins? Endogenous morphine. Morphine is a feel-good hormone. We can produce it ourselves. So that type of exercise and moving, you're taking your power back. You're taking your strength back. And you're asking WIN, win. Win is what's important now. If I wasn't a victim, if I wasn't afraid to fail, if I was willing to take the first step, what might that first step be? And every single morning I wake up, I begin again. And some mornings I wake up and I'm in flying form. And some mornings I wake up and I'm tired, I'm scared, I'm worried, I'm anxious. That's fine. So what's the first step towards this? It's not sit on the couch. It is not eat processed food. It is not go for caffeine. It is not feel sorry for myself. It is go get the work done. And I have a little basement in my house, and I have to get down there some mornings. And as I'm going down, my head is saying, I don't go down. I don't want to go down. Maybe just have a cup of coffee. Maybe just watch a bit of TV. Maybe you've had a long week. Maybe this, maybe that. And I'm listening to that voice and I hear you. Yeah. But I'm just going down here. And I just go down. I turn the music on. Nice bit of music. Get moving. And within 20, 25 minutes, I feel completely different. And that voice has gone. Where one time ago, I would listen to that voice. And I would entertain that voice. Now I don't entertain him because I know that's my ego. He just wants to keep me trapped in my own safety, my own familiarity. And ultimately, the greatest line I've ever heard is, we have to become less interested in our own misery and become more interested in our own magnificence. Yeah. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm just not interested in my own misery anymore. I'm not interested in that old victim story. I'm just not interested. I don't give it any attention. Do I hear it? Yes. Do I experience it? Yes. Do I allow it to dictate my actions, my decisions? Absolutely not. And I think if people can have a routine in the morning that's 15 to 20 minutes where we move the body, we're listening to music, we're energizing, we're activating, we're chanting, we're screaming, we're awakening that sense of power, we're repeating those affirmations. So as we're moving, as we're boxing, we're saying powerful, joyful, easy, powerful, joyful, easy. We're firing those neurons in the brain. And it's amazing how we can change our chemistry, we can change our biology, we can change our brain chemistry, we can change the neurons firing in the brain, we can change oxygen levels in the blood, we can switch from sympathetic, which is fight or flight, to parasympathetic in 15, 20 minutes. And we might have to do that every day. And particularly if you're starting from a place where that empowerment is not known to you, you're going to have to do this every day. Sometimes I have to do twice a day. But the gift I get is incredible.
Yeah, the return of investment, yeah. And I heard you speak about 15 minutes as 1%. I think you want to, like, if you can't give 1% of your day to yourself, then I think you really need to reflect. There's a lot of things you said there, Gerry. One thing I noticed before, also these are great answers, terrific. But one thing you said before is, you know, about like, what do you say to someone who maybe have lost a child or something? It's already good saying this to like maybe an athlete, but someone whose life has really come around and tried to knock them out. I heard you speak about you have a right to feel anger, you have a right to feel bitterness, but just because you have a right to have it doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. Is that like, what's that like when you're there with someone and you see them begin to go from like maybe not hating life, but hating what life has done to them, being able to grasp on a hope? Is there any examples, you don't have to say any names, but is there any examples of like that come to mind where you were with someone who just couldn't grasp hope, and then after work, repeat it over and over again, they were able to like start to grasp onto like a bit of light in life?
Loads of times, even on the retreats that we do, you know, it's 4 days of non-stop immersion. And even in those 4 days, we see people coming and life has got on top of them. They look old, they look tired, they look deflated. And we do 4 days of immersion. And it is powerful, it is scientific, but it is mesmerizing. And they bounce out the door. The world is still the same. Their challenges haven't changed, but something in their eyes has changed. They look younger, they look fresher, there's an energy, because ultimately the question we all have to ask is, in the time that we've left to live, what do I want to feel more of? And if the answer is that is joy, love, freedom, then we got to go and find that. They're not just things that fall into our lap every day. We have to go and find them. And I think what I try to do is give people their sense of identity back, give people their sense of control back, give people a sense of that fight back in them. Short term, what one thing today is going to get you out of bed? What one thing today is going to put you in the right way? And it's that idea of every morning we begin again. So sometimes it's literally not knowing what the next week holds, but knowing today I'm going to do this. This is my schedule. This is my routine. This is what I'm doing. And I think if we can get a bit disciplined around that and get a schedule, get those 15 minutes in the morning, find something you love doing, and then do that consistently. So Like it's people, you see the change in them, and literally they look younger when they're leaving. They look like different people. They come in, they're half almost bent over.
And what would be on them 4 days if you could break down what are the things you'd be doing?
Yeah, every morning we start with activation sessions, like we're talking, we do exercise, we chant, we do all the stuff we're talking about. It's high energy, and then we've breakfast, and after breakfast we do some workshops, and they could be on releasing trauma, they could be on changing mindset, they could be on balancing the nervous system. We do then we have lunch, then we're back in for another workshop. Then we will have yoga, we'll have meditation, dinner, and then just before they go to bed, we do a very special yoga nidra where we put them into sleep state. So for the entire time, they're eating really healthy, they're exercising, they're moving the body.
Compound over and
the whole
over.
thing. And even though it's only 4 days, it's amazing what you achieve because you're literally immersed in this environment for 24 hours. So that's 96. Is that 96 hours?
I ain't good at the maths now.
It's amazing what we can do in 96 hours. It's amazing the biology and the chemistry that we can change. We can balance our nervous system. So it's looking at physically, emotionally, psychologically, chemically. We have this massive hit over 4 days. And that gives them the courage, gives them the strength and the new sense of identity that they can go on and sustain that.
Push forward.
Gerry,
I think one of the greatest things too, I was looking at an Olympic runner, I'm not sure which one he was, marathon runner. He was one of the world records. And he was on about join a group of people. Join a group, because when you're with someone, it's contagious, the energy that you feel. And just like, that's why when I was at the activations, everyone's there for the same purpose, and you're going to learn something new than if you never broke out of whatever, like you say, if you say whatever, like your bubble is, if you don't like pop out of it and go into other bubbles, you'll never like learn. And sure, you're on about saying if you try something and you think it's a pot of shite, it's all right, it doesn't matter. Like you tried it though, because not trying is failing. I want to bring it in there to, or sorry, I want to take it for the choice, having the choice every morning. I know you said that one of the things now your choice in the morning is thinking about having when you've had your children and you want to be there when they get married. What's that? Is that something that regularly like gives you that inspiration, or maybe not inspiration, just gives you that kind of map to like, yeah, I want to get there, so I want to treat my body, I want to treat my mind, my spirit. Is that something regularly in the morning you think about, or does it only come in like now and again?
It comes in when I need it. And the point I'm making is, what, how, and why. A lot of people know what to do. We know how to do, we don't do it. So if you have the what and the how, something's missing. And what's missing is the why. So you need, like a thought is an electrical circuit. Okay, so you have an electrical circuit, and if that thought is around my misery, my pain, my past, my anxiety, then that's all I can think about. What you need is literally a volt of lightning. You need to have an emotion. You need to have a thought. You need to have a shot of electricity that's more powerful than that. So when I think of my kids and that love, nothing is more important to me than being there for my children when they need me. That's more important than my past, my misery, my anxiety. So suddenly I'm locked into something else. And we know the heart has an energy field far more powerful than the brain. Love is one of the most powerful motivators we have. So it's not about me. It's not about what I want to do. It's about what's the right thing to do. And I think every morning we need to find a why. We need to ask ourselves, why would I do this? Do I want to get up every morning, go to the gym and get into an ice tank? Not really. Sometimes I would prefer to stay in bed and just indulge in my own misery. But what's that going to do for me or for anybody? What's that going to do if I do it consistently in the long term? So ask yourself, what do I really want in my life? And then look at the actions you're doing every day, because the future doesn't just happen. The future is created by all the little things you do each and every day. It's called aligning intent and attention. So whether it's my work goals, whether it's the books I want to write, whether it's the marriage I want to have, whether it's I see my future, I see it, and it brings my heart alive. And I see it so clearly that I actually believe it's happened already. And I'm not going to miss that.
So
then I ask myself, what is it I need to do today to stack the odds in my favor of that happening. And I think it's the right person with the right process never worries about the outcome. Too many people set goals, but then they don't really change a whole lot. So you have to become the person. You have to live as if it's already happened. So every morning I tell myself, I'm fit, I'm strong, I'm healthy. And then I have to back that up with actions. It's regularly looking at the food I'm eating. Does that look like the food of someone that's fit and strong and healthy? Look at the exercise I'm doing or not doing. Look at my daily habits. So when my intention is this and my attention matches that, then it's going to happen. But too many people say, well, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to be rich, I want to start my own business, I want to be a billionaire, but I just need to go on social media for half an hour and look at crap. I just need to watch this thing on Netflix. I was meant to go to the gym and I didn't. Well, it's not going to happen then. So what am I saying is we have to become the conscious creators of our own life. We have to be willing to put the work in every day. We have to stop looking around us. We have to stop waiting for someone to come to save us. No one's coming. No one's coming to save us. No one's coming to hand you your dreams. You have to make these things happen. And you make them happen through actions and belief and confidence and resilience and an unshakable. I was watching a great documentary last night about one of the NBA players who plays with the Boston Celtics. And he was saying an incredible story. So anyone that's into NBA will know I forget his name. He's
Get the name.
He's the key. He's the number one guy in the Boston Celtics. And he said when he was young, his idol was LeBron James. And one day in school, the teacher asked him, who's your idol? And, would you like to do that job? So people were saying policemen, teachers, doctors, tradesmen. And I came to him, he said, LeBron James. I said, oh yeah, but no, pick somebody that has a career. He said, well, he has a career. He's an NBA player. And the teacher said, no, pick somebody with a career that you could do.
Trying to box straight away.
He said, I'm going to be an NBA player. And the teacher said, I think you should pick, but I think you should pick something a bit more reasonable. And he left that day saying, what's wrong with her? I told her I'm going to be an NBA player. There was never doubt in his head. How funny enough, when you met his mother knew that he was no good at school. He was no good at anything else. But when it came to basketball, there was an energy, there was a passion, there was something about him. So she rang up this incredible coach who was coaching the best players in the world. And she said, I have a young player, a young son. And he was like, who is he? I've never heard of him. He's only 15. And kind of said, no, forget about it.
Good.
And he just said, look, I'm very busy. And she said, I'll pay you whatever it takes. And he said, well, it's not really about the money. She said, I'm telling you, I'll work double jobs. I'll work triple jobs. And when he heard the mother saying that, now he listened. So he said, let me meet your son. So eventually he met the son. And the coach said, the only thing I did was I give him the toughest training session that I ever give any basketball player. And he never buckled. He never complained. He just got it done. And I saw something in him. And he said, when he was leaving, I said to him, that was some training session. And even though he was only 14 or 15, he said, you would have to carry me off that basketball court before I'd leave. To this day, despite all his money and all his success, the coach says he trains harder than anyone I've ever seen. He's always asking, how do I improve? How do I get better? We look at these NBA players and we look at all these people who have done amazing things and we kind of say, oh, well, it's just their genes. They were just lucky. They weren't lucky. Or they grew up in a home. He grew up in a home where nobody in his family knew anything about basketball. We need to stop telling ourselves shitty stories. Well, it's okay for them. If you want to be a professional soccer player, be a professional soccer player.
People
You have to have the courage, but you got to back it up every day. And what these guys do, and I've worked with Olympic champions, I've worked with world champions, they back it up every day.
Facts.
They have no God-given right They have no genetic predisposition. There is no family that's somehow willed them into it. They just had this dream that they were unwilling to let go. And every single morning they connected their actions to their dreams. It's the 1%. 99% of people wake up, they scroll on their phone, they drink coffee, they eat processed food, they give out about the weather, they give out about things, they wait for the summer, they don't know what to do. 1% of people wake up and ask, how do I become fitter? How do I become stronger? How do I manifest my dreams? How do I become free? How do I let go of my past? And how do I live without limits? And we all have the choice. We all have the choice to be that 99%
Or the 1%.
or the 1%. And we've got to ask ourselves that. We've got to look ourselves in the mirror and say, in this one short life, am I actually maxing out on my potential? Am I really giving this a go? Am I really putting the work in? And if you are, great. And if you're not, then don't look left or right as to why life didn't work out for you.
Yeah.
Because you didn't work. Is any of this easy? No, it's not easy. People say to me, it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. But the reward
It's more than you could ever imagine.
of living a life
Yeah.
of freedom, living a life on your own terms, living a life where you're actively pursuing your dream. And even if the dream doesn't work out, well, who cares?
The process.
The process was enough. And
Preach. Tell him, Jerry.
so I think that's where people have to get to. What fires you up in the morning?
Mm-hmm.
What's the dream that's going to get you out of bed? And for some people, that's a dream of, I want to own my own home. Well, then that's the dream. I want to see my kids grow up. I want to be at my children's wedding. I want to be a great dad. I'd love to own my own car. It doesn't matter how big or small the dream is. What is it that's going to fire you out of bed? I want to stand on the top of Everest. I want to then do these things. Because actually there's nobody stopping you. Not your past, not your future, not your genetics.
The mirror.
You look in the mirror and you ask yourself, A, do I believe in myself? B, am I willing to let go of everything that might prevent me from going after this? And C, can I pursue this with love and make no excuses?
Yeah. Damn, 100%, Jerry. 150%. One thing I want to hit on home there is, I think I used to struggle with it too. I used to read the books. So I was 17 and got 17, found law of attraction. I'm going to rafter. This is all I need. This is all I need to do. I'm just going to manifest it. Didn't do any work. I was writing songs, but I wasn't recording them or anything. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it. Then realize one day, Martin, you're not actually doing the action to like match the dream. But I'd be reading these books and I'd read Alan Sugar's and I'd be like, and like, I'd never be able to find connection. And I was like, I could never kind of like make that like distinction in my life. That I was like, oh, but my life's different. My life's harder or whatever, or this didn't happen. So sometimes when we look at these, like, even if it's yourself, even if it's Ronaldo or any of the most successful people, no matter what field, well, yeah, they had something different. But that's just the thing. There's no difference.
There's no difference.
It is no difference. Like, sure, if you're a basketball player and 6'7", okay, that's a bit of a difference. But
Yeah, but how many 6'7" people in the
Didn't.
world?
yeah,
And how many NBA players are there?
yeah.
So 6'7" doesn't get you best in as an NBA player. You need something a hell lot more than that. So even that, you
Yeah.
know, okay, yes.
No, I get you.
But there's NBA players who aren't 6'7".
Yeah, like Stephen Curry. I think Stephen Curry is my height, 6'2".
I know. There's incredible rugby players that were told they were too small.
Peter Stringer.
So here we go. So
Yeah.
suddenly
You're able to.
you have to book you have to
100%.
book the trend. There's too many people who buy into the trend. Sure, it's Monday. Everyone hates Monday. Sure, it's Friday. We'll have a glass of wine.
It's so easy to buy
it's
into. That's the say.
Called crap. It's social created crap. There's a great story. It's in my new book. It's coming out next month. It's called I Am, I Can, I Will. It's all about changing your inner voice. And I was climbing a mountain recently, and I'm terrified of heights. And this story was building. Maybe this is too high. Maybe we've rushed the climatization. Am I getting? So eventually, the guide managed to get me over my own bullshit, got me up to the top. But on the way down, I said to him, how do you know when someone is actually at maxed out? So sometimes, and he said it's very gentle. Sometimes, like, you have to get people over their own bullshit to get them up. But actually, sometimes people think they can keep going, but they can't.
Yeah.
I said, you have to look into their eyes, you have to look at them, you have to look at the way they walk, and it's a tough decision to make. But he said, you have to trust yourself. And he said, often they're coming down a big mountain and they're going towards the summit. And on the way down, they meet a team that have decided to abandon and they're going back down. Now, he said the most important thing, you do not ask that team why they're going down.
Ooh, okay.
Because they will find a narrative to support their decision. So the only question he'll ask is there something in the terrain I should be aware of? He'll ask them a technical question. Because no one's going to say, well, we actually bottled it. We've just lost confidence. He said, you ask them enough technical questions so you understand.
Figure it out, yeah.
But he said most people abandon stuff, but they won't tell themselves the truth. He said, shitty people with shitty beliefs tell themselves shitty stories to justify their shitty actions. It's a hard-hitting line. But what's the story you're telling yourself right now? When you see Steph Curry, when you see these guys, what's the story you tell them? Are you saying they're different? They were lucky? They just had money? Did they? How did Ronaldo get so good? A God-given right? Was it? Genetics? Was it? A good family environment? Was it? And what's the story that's holding you back? Shitty people with shitty beliefs tell themselves shitty stories to justify their shitty actions. It's a powerful, powerful line. And regularly, I have to ask myself, what's the story I'm telling myself? I look at someone on Instagram and they're doing something amazing. And maybe part of me said, oh, but is that real? I don't think that's real, but is he really happy? No, he actually is really happy and he's really successful. And why would you be annoyed by that? I think when we look at really successful people, part of it takes great joy in looking at them, and then part of it can be a bit angry and a bit annoyed. So I think we need to examine the stories we tell ourselves. When we look at something and says, I can't, why? Well, that wouldn't be for me. Why? Oh, I'm not really into yoga. Why? Morning routines don't work. Are you sure? Changing your food doesn't change depression. Are you sure? Have you read the science? I think we all get attached to a story. And the story sometimes has absolutely no basis in truth.
Yeah.
So those guys had a story that said the best thing to do is get off this mountain. It's not possible to climb the summit. My guy, an hour later, standing on the summit with a group of 12 people, saying it was totally possible. I think we need to examine deeply the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves and about the world, about other people, and about what's holding us back. Maybe the only thing holding you back is the story you're telling yourself.
Yeah, that segues into exactly what I want to speak about, the program, subconscious program, and what we're telling ourselves. What is the story? When I went to your activation in October, you were hitting home about what is the story, what is the subconscious program that you've and what has maybe contributed to that. Is it like a family dynamic, or was it a teacher was it someone who was an athlete and did listen to their teacher and now that's their program? I think a lot of people, you also speak about, you turn on social media now and it gives us the fictitious depiction of what life should be. And it's overwhelming because even if you have the best day, if you hit everything and you go onto Instagram, you're going to see something that you don't have. And a lot of the time we're not about accessing our potential. What's the best way? A lot of people in reality don't need to be rich. A lot of people, I was speaking to my sister here about when I was a kid, I wanted to be famous rapper. I'm going to be a successful rapper. Fame is a byproduct. If it comes along, a little bit, it's okay. If some fame comes from this, a little bit, it's okay.
But what does famous mean to you?
Exactly.
How many people do you need to know you?
Exactly. When I was a kid, famous was the entire world. But fame, the only reason I wanted the entire world to know me is because nobody knew me and I didn't know myself. That's the only reason I wanted that. Now I'm more of an adult. I've learned a little bit of life experience. I know myself. I don't need millions of people knowing who I am. Maybe a couple 100,000 supporters in the podcast. But I don't need the whole world to know who I am. How do people, do you think, discover who they are, Gerry, when there's so many people trying to sell them something? There's so many people trying to sell them this life or that life. And reality, so many people only need the basics. How do you discover who you are in a world where it's so overwhelming?
Yeah, I think there's, Michelangelo was asked once, how did he create the statue of David, the famous sculpted statue? And he said, I didn't. I just got a rock and I took away everything that wasn't David. Just take the crap out of your life. Sometimes we don't know who the real me is. But if I'm doing something that doesn't really if I'm drudging into a job today that I don't really like, well, then that's not you. If I'm scrolling on social media and it doesn't make me feel better, then get off social media. So the first question is, just stop the stuff that doesn't help. So come off social media. If you're going out and having pints and waking up the next day and feeling bad, what are you drinking alcohol for? Thankfully, I've never drank alcohol. I don't know why people drink alcohol. What are you hoping to find in the bottom of a glass? What are you hoping for? So start to switch off the stuff that doesn't help. Start to stop hanging out with people who don't inspire you. So the first step is, we all deeply know, ask yourself the honest question, do I really love my job? Do I really love the people I'm hanging around with? Do they make me feel inspired? Am I really doing the work? So the first thing is to let go of everything that depletes you. Let go of everything that's holding you back. There's a great expression that says a hot air balloon flies not just because of the air in the balloon, but because of the ropes they cut the tie to the ground. So what's tying you down? Let that go. Is there a trauma you need to release? Let that go. Is there therapy you need? Get that done. Get the work done. And then the new you starts to appear. And the question is, what makes me happy? You shouldn't pursue fame or success or happy or anything or money. You should pursue happiness. What makes me happy? Because we think it'd be amazing if I had 4 Grammys. But what would 4 Grammys do for you?
The quote John Candy, if you want to say that, comes to mind that we were speaking about earlier on.
Yeah.
From your favorite movie, or one of your movies, Cool Runnings. If you want to maybe elaborate on that.
Yeah, it's great. In Cool Runnings, where, the fictional but the Jamaican bobsleigh team, and John Candy is their coach, and he was a great bobsleigh and he'd all the medals, but he cheated. And then he lost everything. He lost his credibility. And one of the athletes asked him, and he said, but coach, why did you do it? I mean, you had the medals and you had all the records. Why did you do it? And Candy says, if you're not enough with the medals, if you're not enough without the medals, you won't be enough with the medals. If you're deeply unhappy as a human being, 10 Grammys is not going to change a damn thing. Having €1 billion in your bank account is not going to change. The lack of money causes stress. So yes, we need money to survive, but we know scientifically, once you have enough to provide the basics in life, a house, food, access to healthcare and education, once you have the basics, then no amount of money beyond that, at best, can add 1% to your happiness. So we're all chasing this idea of fame and richness and a yacht, but are the people on the yacht even happy? And I work with a lot of people who have more money than they'll ever spend. And they realise it's not about the money. What the hell was I chasing this crap for? What is it we all want? So I want to be, an award-winning, Grammy-winning rapper. Why? Because it would make you feel happy. Because you can be happy without them. If your happiness depends on something other than you, if your happiness depends on you having something, then you're a victim to that thing. So if you love rapping, then rap with all your heart. Rap every day. If sing, dance, box, write, do what you do.
The world champions preparing for you spoke about for the box, they're not tense, you're joking, you're laughter because it's a joy. You're about to go out there and leave everything.
What they love.
Yeah.
They just do
They're
what they love.
smiling.
So how do I find the real me? One is get rid of the stuff that doesn't help you. And that's everything from the activities to the food, to the alcohol, to the caffeine. Get rid of it. It doesn't help anybody. Get rid of it. Stop using it as a crutch. Stand on your own 2 feet. Then fill yourself with food that nourishes you, activities that nourish you. Surround yourself with people that inspire you.
Huge one, Gerry.
And then
Massive.
Ask yourself, what makes me happy? Pursue that. And if you're pursuing what makes you happy, then whether you've 1 Grammy or 10 Grammys, you're going to be happy doing it anyway. And that's that internal regulation. Too many people are chasing a dream out there, chasing a house, chasing a promotion, and they don't even know why they're chasing it because they think that will make me happy. But if you're unhappy inside, no amount of external stuff is going to make you happy.
That's it. Jay, we're going to hit it into the mid of the podcast. This is just a nice little happy old joyful old section I do where I do fun questions.
Okay.
It kind of just like breaks up a little bit of the podcast. But yeah, I'm just going to hit you with quick fire questions and first thing that comes to mind, whatever. So straight away, favorite movie?
Any Rocky movie
Rockies.
or A Beautiful Mind.
Beautiful Mind, 100%. Favorite cereal, or not cereal, should I say, but fruit or anything in the morning. I know cereal sounds kind of bullcrap.
Porridge. I like porridge.
Shabby porridge.
Porridge, I'll say, yeah.
Favorite childhood memory?
Favorite childhood memory is, if I was to pick one, I think just time spent with my mum and dad. I think we grew up in a busy house, so on a Friday night I used to go boxing with my dad, and for those 2 hours it was just me and him, and then I do things with my mum. So I think that's what I crave. I think I love connection, and I love, particularly I'm still lucky my mum and dad are alive, and I still love just being connected to them.
Love that. Favorite cartoon?
Favorite cartoon. Don't really have a favorite cartoon.
Okay, change it. That's all right. What is the kids like? What are the kids be watching?
They watch everything.
Scooby Doo still about, is he?
No, they watch all types of new high-tech cartoons. I think if I had a favorite cartoon, it would probably be Animaniacs.
Okay, perfect. Favorite song or band or artist?
I love anything by The Killers.
You love a bit of Mr. Brightside. Guys, he loves Mr. Brightside.
Probably my favorite song, yeah. I love it.
And then last but not least, look, we all like a snack from time to time. Is there anything that you like create from time? You're like, no, I won't have it now. Maybe it's this point. Is there any chocolate or ice? Is there any like guilty pleasure now and again? Are you 100% Jerry disciplined?
No.
Comes to mind.
I love. I haven't eaten any processed food now in a few months, so the taste is gone, and it's amazing how quickly.
Potato crisp.
Not really. I don't crave.
That's good. I guess it.
Yeah, white bread is probably.
Yeah.
Now not all white bread is bad, but it's not something I eat regularly.
Gotcha.
But if I had something I love, it is the big thick white batch bread.
Oh yeah.
Fresh butter and a fresh slice of ham.
Nice. Kerrygold, or where are you going with the butter?
Oh, it has to be real butter.
Real butter.
Real butter.
And last but not least, favorite country or holiday or anything that comes to mind, or and any
I
memories?
love Portugal. We spend a lot of time out there. Italy's amazing. My favorite city in the world is probably Paris.
Paris.
Why
Paris?
I just love it. I love because what I admire about the French is you love them or hate them. They're
She's fluent. Really,
they have their own language. They have their own culture. They have their own architecture. When you're in Paris, you know you're in Paris.
Yeah.
I think in Ireland, while we have our own language, we lack our own architecture. We're a little bit of everything. I love the French are so French. I love their language. I love their architecture, and I just love the way they do it. Whether you like them or hate them, they don't care.
Yeah.
Their national pastime is probably complaining and giving out, but I just think they play sport their own way. They do it their own way. They're just French, and this is probably my favorite place to be. Is sitting just relaxing in the middle of Paris is special.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. My friends were just in Paris. I had 3 friends were actually in Paris like last week, and I hadn't been there since the 2007 Rugby World Cup.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was. Who won it? Oh, I should know this. I feel like, was it France that won it? No, I don't know who won the 2007. I feel like South Africa. It could have been South Africa. Did you watch the rugby last week?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, what do you reckon?
Great.
The Six Nations.
We're great to have it back. I think it's great this time of year. You have rugby back, you have GA back.
Yeah.
And I think apart from the sport, I think those, old players, these are guys who put everything on the line. And I think media, we can slate them too quickly, and we're too bogged down in analysis. Like, I just admire them. I admire the passion, the work, the courage they have. And And I just think, and then the community side of this, it brings people together. So we're blessed this time of year. We've rugby back, we've GA back. I think sport is such an important thing for kids. It's so important for community. And, players play well, they play bad. Just go easy on them at times. I think
They're humans.
They're humans. They're somebody's son. They're somebody's daughter. Nobody was out to have a bad day. The work these guys put in, the effort they put in, I think we should celebrate them. Yeah. Whether they have a good day or a bad day, let's celebrate them. Let's get behind them. Look at the days out they give us. Look at the joy. This whole thing is just magnificent. So I think, great to see the rugby back. It's going to be a great campaign. I think Ireland and series team, we all know that. Yeah. And I think I'm a GA fanatic as well. I think
You're the guy.
Yes, I just think, it brings something alive this time of year. It's spring. It's so much. And I think we just need to get behind these guys and support them.
Yeah. I don't know about bringing the All-Ireland back though to July. I'm not sure how I feel about that yet, Gerry, but look, we'll leave that to the lads in charge. I'm sure they'll figure it out. Gerry, I just want to go into a few more things and then we'll wrap things up. You spoke about your work with athletes. So I'm big into jogging. I would have grown up playing a lot of soccer. Then around 19 actually quit. Was other things happening in my life with depression and like things happening, whatever. But then I returned to football and then I kind of developed into jogging now, and jogging's huge for me. Like, and doing my Milan Marathon the 6th of April. And it's funny, about stories. The way I'm treating it is just it's a run in the park. Like, it's just a big jog. That's all it is. And the way I do the story is I'm looking at like Ironmans eventually. Well, if I look at Ironmans, then marathon is just one of them. So like, just the story we tell ourselves. How, in a time where mental health has become, we put it in the spotlight and thankfully more attention's onto it. How does that come into sport? Because I remember one of the tennis players, I can't remember, she's a female tennis player, great tennis player. She used to go with a rapper, Corday, but she backed out of one of the tournaments and said her mental health, and there was the whole conversation started. How do we make the distinction when it comes to sport of mental health versus gritting the teeth? Like, we live in a world now where, like, I want to be very careful how I use my words here, but mental health is so important. We say mental health, all our health together is so important. I want to be careful about using words, but all our health together is so important. But when do we make the distinction between something's wrong and having to just grit the teeth when you're in that, like when you don't feel like doing it, when you feel depressed, when your body's not there, but you need to turn up? And how like in a time where everyone has so many opinions, where do we make the distinction, and how do we make the distinction at the highest level possible? Because if you want to get to that like ultimate level, well, I'm sorry if you're depressed. I'm sorry, but that's not good enough. You're going to have to turn up, and that's what the greatest have done and will always do. But how do you communicate that in like this day and age?
Yeah, well, I think first and foremost, like, I think a lot of sport now is more aware, and a lot of great teams have performance psychologists, and I work as a performance psychologist with lots of great teams, and half the time I'm not even talking about the sport. You're supporting the person. So all of these people, as we said, they're all people, and they have a lot of stuff going on in their life, and they have to expected to perform. So firstly, I think now sports psychologists, are moving away from this kind of whoop-de-doo motivation just to actually, how do I support these human beings? How do I give them courage? How do I build their resilience? How do I help them deal with trauma? And I think that becomes really important. So most great sports people or most great sports teams recognize that you got to build the whole person. Then secondly, what, mental health is, we need to be really careful about what is mental health? Because a lot of people would say, oh yeah, Gerry, you suffer from anxiety. Yeah, I know what that means. I had a big test coming up and I was really anxious. Like, that's nonsense. That's not even the same thing. Normal anxiety where I feel anxious about an exam, I feel anxious about something coming up, that's just normal anxiety. The problem is it's the same bloody word. Normal anxiety is like spraining your ankle. Anxiety is like someone shattering your shin bone. They're not even comparable. We shouldn't even have the same word. Now, we need to become very clear. People say, I feel depressed. Well, feeling depressed and having depression, It's two totally different things.
Yeah.
So what we need now is a much better education around mental health, what it is, what actually causes it, how it's treated, and then we can have a joined up way. So right now everyone's talking about it, but no one's really having the deep. So everyone, a depressive episode and depression are not the same thing. Someone who's deeply down doesn't mean they're suicidal. So there's very powerful, very significant and important differences in all of this. I feel depressed doesn't mean I have depression. It's okay to feel depressed. It's okay to feel anxious. So what we got to look at is on any given day, do I feel ups and downs in life? If I feel the ups and downs in life, that's okay. If I constantly feel down and no matter what I do doesn't change it, that needs to be addressed. If I can't sit still for 2 seconds and I have to be in the gym every single day, some people have to go to the gym because it's like they've so much energy, they need to burn it off. That's not healthy either. So a healthy functioning is where I feel up, I feel down, I feel in, I feel out. That's the mix. And I might feel down for 3 or 4 days, but I get back in the wagon, I get back and I can move it. It's when it's not moving. And I think it's a really important point. It's very hard, like even when you look at how medical or doctors define depression, it's not really a great definition. If you look at the DMV, which is the manual that they use, it's not a great. So we need a better way of speaking about it. We need a better way of understanding, a mental health day. Well, what does that mean? What does it mean? Who can avail of that? And even when we use the word mental health, it kind of implies that something is wrong. But you can have good mental health.
Yeah, that's a very good point. When you say mental health, it's never, positive or good. It's kind of like,
yeah.
Here we
so
go.
If I take a mental health day, does that mean that I feel good and I'm doing something to make me continue to feel good? So I think we have to look at how we talk about mental health. Mental and physical health are the same health.
Yeah.
So stop separating them. Secondly, we need to figure out that in feeling anxious, feeling depressed is not having anxiety and depression. They're two totally different realities. Then we need to understand deeper the real causes of mental health, the real causes. Let's have an open, honest, scientific understanding. It's not so much about chemical imbalances. That myth has kind of dissipated. There's something deeper here. We need a joint up thinking that looks at food, that looks at attachment, that looks at screen time, that looks at trauma. We need a complete look at this. And then with clear definitions and clear understanding, then we can have clear treatments. I think too many people are talking about mental health, but not enough people are looking at it deeply enough and scientifically enough.
Yeah, I feel that. And then just for background, anyone who doesn't know, my introduction was that you overcame some childhood adversity. You were 13, 14. Like it can be sometimes hard when someone meets this version of you, it could be hard to see when you weren't this version of you. Just like sometimes when we meet people who aren't doing well, sometimes it's hard for us to imagine the best version of themselves or for them to. But you were in a position where a lot of teenagers now, probably more than ever, because largely of phones, of what the internet, as well as everything that's happened in the world, do have crazy anxiety, do feel suicidal. When you were a kid, you suffered from that or had them experiences. So this isn't you just throwing this out. This is coming from experience. And this is coming from experience when there wasn't as much education. You had to go out and find the books and whatever yourself. So I think, it's just a lot to digest, Jay. It's like we're living in a world where there's just so many solutions to everything that I think I want to bring back to what you said about stripping back. A lot of it's just stripping back. And one of the podcasts you did recently, the guy was on, I can't remember his name, he's Northern Ireland guy, but he was on about not adding. He read all the books. It wasn't about adding anymore. It was just about stripping back. And how much can I strip back? Because we come into the world, we essentially nothing. We're coming in a bit of a panic, crying and whatnot. But we don't have anything. It's just I call it the luggage, not the baggage.
Yeah.
But we just get more and more luggage. And it's just about stripping all the way back to our natural selves, because we're inherently supposed to be happy. But it's just we collect all these different things along the way. But yeah, Someone want to get it. Gerry, I want to bring things to a close. And I want to ask you, you're at this point in your life now. You have the 2 babbies.
Mm-hmm.
You have your wife. You have your house, which was a big accomplishment. You spoke about. You're an author. You have your next book coming up next in March 16th, is it?
March 13th.
13th.
Yes, yeah,
God damn
13th.
it.
Yeah.
What's now and what's next for you in terms of, I guess, your purpose, but just your general, like, and what stage do you think you're at now in life? What chapter is this for Gerry Hussey?
For me, I'm at this point where I've thought about this a lot. So when I was young, I had these things I wanted to do. I wanted to write best-selling books. I wanted to be a voice of difference. I wanted to challenge traditional psychology. I wanted to challenge medicine to look differently at the entire human being. And I've done that. And it's an incredible thing to say.
Facts.
When I listed all my life dreams, I've achieved them. And the question is, I know, and
It's a big thing.
it's a little bit like someone come back after winning an Olympic gold medal. Then you ask, what the hell do I do now?
Yeah, what do I do now?
For me, I'm going to do 2 things, and I promised myself this. I did a lot of work over Christmas on myself, because you said, when I was growing up, I was crippled with anxiety. I was very anxious again over Christmas, and I had to really double down on this. I want everyone to know this. Like, I'm not sitting here as someone that's immune from all of this. We all suffer ups and downs, and I've made myself a promise. I'm releasing all expectations from myself. So sometimes when you have a message, sometimes when you know you can help people, you put pressure on yourself to do that. I'm going to live this year with no expectation of myself. Except I'm going to give myself the freedom to pursue what makes me happy and brings me peace. If that means I go on to write more books, great. If it doesn't, so be it. I've 1 show planned this year in April, 6th of April. If I do more, fantastic. If I don't, so be it. Right now, it's about being in this moment. It is about taking time to reflect on the incredible experiences I've had in my life. It's about looking at myself more regularly and telling myself how proud I am of myself. It's about spending more time with my children, being truly present to them. And in this space where there's no expectation, then there's no striving. I'm not rushing towards anything. And in this place of presence then, so when you take away expectation and you take away striving, you can be true to what is in this moment. And in this moment, I want to focus more on joy and love. And if I can consistently turn up over the next year with joy and love in my heart, and instead of me trying to predict what I want in my life, I'm going to ask the divine, what is it you want me to do? What would the next chapter look like? I think you too once said that, they had to take time away from music. And the beautiful expression they said was, we had to go away and dream it all up again. I think I'm going to just go away and dream it all up again. And I think it's an important message for a lot of people, because, even you probably have massive dreams and ambitions. But look, like what you said this morning, look at where you are now. You're recording your own podcast. You're getting to meet incredible people. You've joy in your heart. Isn't that an incredible place from, and we live with so much pressure on ourselves, and we're always looking to the next thing. And I would say to anybody listening to this podcast, like, no matter where you are today, there's probably stuff that you can be incredibly proud of yourself. I don't think we take enough time to celebrate the little milestones as we go along, to celebrate the little changes. One time ago, people probably dreamed of having a job, and now they have a job. They dreamed of having a car, now they have a car. And it's always on to the next thing. It's like when you get engaged, immediately when you get married. The day you get married, when you're having kids, it's like, can we just be present to what is? And if I can live for the next while without expectation and without striving, and every day through my own practices, I can generate a feeling of love and joy and empowerment, and I just open my mind to the universe. Like it's like I've won the Olympic gold medal, or it's like I've climbed Everest, and I don't really know what's next. And I'm not going to try force a picture, and I'm not going to create something that I think I need to do. I'm just going to sit back now and say, wow, A, wasn't that incredible? B, I'm really proud of myself. And C, I don't really mind what comes next. As long as it's filled with love and joy, as long as I get to hang out with people that inspire me, and as long as I spend time with the people I love, it'll be fine. So I've been asked a number of times in the last couple of weeks, what's next for you? I actually don't know. It's been more present, been more joyful, more mindful of the achievements I have, and opening my mind to whatever might appear as the next. But I'm not even worried about the next. Now, today, how do I foster more joy, more love, more presence? I think that's the magic for me.
Oh, that answer. Is there almost a comfort in not knowing versus knowing? Like the opposite. Some people find comfort in knowing what's next, Is there almost like a comfort and a joy in not knowing?
Well, it's new for me because I always kind of had a plan and intent, and that worked really well for me, and I really liked that. I always, I just need to dream it up again. So there's a comfort and a discomfort. Sometimes I wish I had a plan, but I don't
The
have
growth,
a plan.
though, from the discomfort.
So I think as I grow and mature, I need to plan less. But this is the first time I'm like...
Is it freeing?
Oh, it's incredible, yeah. And I have no pressure on myself, and I have no pressure this new book coming out. Like, the last two books, you'd be a bit nervous. I hope it does well. Like, if the book does well, fantastic. If it doesn't, I can't control that. I put my best into it. Will my shows sell out? I don't mind, actually. If people like what I say and they want more, we'll do more shows. If people don't like what I say, and we won't do more shows. But there's a plan out there for me. I think I'll have an impact, but I'll only have an impact if I'm coming from a place of joy and love and honesty. So it's great to have a vision. It's great to have a dream. It's great to have something to work towards. But I think the most thing you should be working towards is more presence, more joy, more love, and an openness to the universe. An openness. Who knows what's going to happen? But if I'm present, if I'm full of love, if I'm full of confidence, if I'm fit and healthy, then I'll seize the opportunity if it comes.
Gerry, I was going to leave it there. Well, kind of a big question what I'll ask you because I haven't actually researched this, but what is, in your opinion, for you, totally just for you, the chapter after our physical? Is that, in your opinion, are you going somewhere? What is your belief of once we pass away?
I think the question has to be asked in the wider context. So you can't ask, why do we live, why do we die? Why did anything exist? So we sit on a rock called Earth that's spinning at 800 miles an hour in the middle of nowhere in a vast, vast universe where our entire galaxy is one galaxy in 100 billion galaxies. And long after the Earth has expired, the universe will continue to expand and evolve. Why? The question is, we don't know. What happens when we die? The truth is, we don't know. Nobody knows. Everybody has an opinion. Nobody knows. And it's in the unknowing that the peace begins. Mm-hmm. Why do we exist? Who knows? Why was anything created? Who knows? What happens when we die? Who knows? But I know I'm alive now. And I know in this moment,
the most of it,
I get to experience joy and love. And every morning I wake up, I get to decide whether I live from a place of fear or a place of love. I don't focus on dying, I focus on living.
Gerry Hussey, thank you for coming. This has been another episode of the One Step at a Time podcast with your host, the Ocean Flight 111, heading straight to full potential with zero delays. Gerry, there's been a bit of turbulence over the last couple months, but we're here. Thank you for being here, man.
My
legendary.
pleasure.
Brah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, man. Absolute pleasure, my man.